Urgent New York Giants fans. Do not miss this. What just happened? You won't believe this one. But before we reveal the big news, make sure to subscribe to the channel, because here, we bring you daily videos with the latest New York Giants updates. And to not miss anything, activate the notifications. Alright, Giants fans, buckle up because today's story is one that's been making waves across the NFL community, and especially among us, fans of Big Blue. We're talking about a recent development that could have major implications for the Giants' future. It's a story packed with intrigue, potential surprises, and an insight into what might be coming down the pipeline for this franchise. So, if you're as excited as I am, stay tuned because we're about to dive deep into what's happening, what it means for the Giants, and how this could shape the upcoming seasons. Now, before we get into the details, let me set the scene a little. The New York Giants, as many of you know, have been going through a bit of a transitional phase recently. After a promising start to the 2023 season, with some flashes of brilliance from their young core, the team has faced its share of challenges. Injuries, inconsistent play, and some tough losses have put the Giants in a position where fans are eager for clarity and, of course, for some positive news to lift our spirits. And just when you think things might be settling into a routine, something unexpected happens that gets everyone talking. So, what's this big news, you ask? Well, it involves a recent statement from a rising star in the NFL, someone who's been grabbing headlines, not just for his on-field performance but also for what he might represent for the future of the league. I'm talking about Shedeur Sanders, the son of legendary quarterback Deion Sanders, who has been making waves as a quarterback with Colorado. But what's really interesting here is the connection this story has with the NFL's future and, surprisingly, with the Giants' plans. Now, I won't spoil the punchline just yet, but trust me, this is something you'll want to hear. Shedeur Sanders, as many of you might know, has been one of the most talked about college quarterbacks over the last few seasons. His performances at Colorado have been nothing short of phenomenal, throwing for hundreds of yards, multiple touchdowns, and showing a level of poise and leadership that has NFL scouts very intrigued. His name has become a hot topic in draft discussions, especially with the 2025 NFL draft approaching. But recently, Sanders made a statement that's causing quite a stir, not just among fans but also within NFL circles. He hinted at his future plans, his ambitions, and even threw some shade at teams that might not have him on their radar just yet. This statement, which came during a recent interview, was interpreted by many as a declaration of intent, an indication that Sanders is aiming high, possibly even targeting a move to the NFL sooner rather than later. And here's where it gets interesting for us Giants fans. Because, as you all know, the Giants are always on the lookout for game-changing talent, especially at quarterback. Daniel Jones has had his ups and downs, and while he's shown flashes of brilliance, the team is always exploring ways to upgrade or bolster that position for the future. And if Sanders indeed becomes available, well, that could be a game-changer for Big Blue. Now, let's take a step back and look at the bigger picture. The Giants, under the current management, have been focusing heavily on rebuilding the roster with young talent. They've invested in their offensive line, shored up the defense, and most recently, have been looking at developing their quarterback of the future. Daniel Jones, as talented as he is, still has a lot to prove, especially in terms of consistency and staying healthy. That's why, whenever a quarterback like Sanders makes a statement about his aspirations, it naturally sparks conversations among fans and analysts alike. Could the Giants be eyeing a future with a talent like Shedeur Sanders? It's a fascinating thought. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. We need to consider a few important factors. First, Sanders is still in college, and the NFL draft process is a long, complex journey. He's got to go through the combine, pro days, team visits, and so on. Plus, he's got to impress scouts and teams in terms of his skills, decision-making, and leadership. But there's no denying that his confidence, his arm talent, and his football IQ are making him a top prospect for 2025. And if he continues on this trajectory, it's entirely plausible that he could be a top 5 pick, or at least a highly sought-after quarterback. Now, shifting our focus to the Giants' current roster, it's worth noting that they aren't exactly sitting on a gold mine at quarterback right now. Daniel Jones, as I mentioned, has shown promise, but consistency remains an issue. The team has a solid offensive line, a talented running game led by Saquon Barkley, who, by the way, has been phenomenal when healthy, and a defense that's steadily improving under the guidance of their coordinator. But the question always lingers, do they have the franchise quarterback to push them over the top? That's where a player like Sanders, with his arm strength and mobility, could fit perfectly into Brian Daboll's offense, which has already shown it can develop quarterbacks. And speaking of the offense, it's worth mentioning some of the key players that could help bring Sanders into the fold if the Giants decide to pursue him in the draft. The Giants have an emerging receiver core, with players like Wan'Dale Robinson and the veteran Sterling Shepard providing reliable targets. Their offensive line, led by Andrew Thomas, has been a bright spot, giving the quarterback time to operate. If the Giants can add a dynamic playmaker at quarterback, it could open up new possibilities for their offensive schemes, stretching defenses and creating more explosive plays, much like what we saw with Daniel Jones' breakout season in 2022. But let's not forget, the Giants are also exploring other avenues. They've been linked to veteran free agents, and there's always the possibility of trading for a proven quarterback if they feel that's the best path. Still, young, high-upside players like Sanders represent the long-term future and are highly attractive options. The franchise has a history of drafting quarterbacks with high potential. Think of Eli Manning, who was a top pick and eventually became a legend. If the Giants are serious about finding their next franchise QB, they'll be watching closely as Sanders' draft stock continues to rise. Now, going back to Sanders' recent statement, which sparked all this buzz, it's worth noting how such declarations can influence team strategies. Sometimes, players' words can accelerate draft negotiations or even influence team decisions about future picks. It's a fascinating aspect of NFL team building, how much a player's confidence and public comments can sway perceptions and planning. For the Giants, monitoring Sanders' progress and how he positions himself in the draft race will be crucial. They may even consider trading up if they believe he's the perfect fit, or perhaps they'll wait patiently to see how things unfold. Another point to consider is the overall landscape of the NFL quarterback scene. The league is evolving rapidly, with mobile quarterbacks becoming more prominent, and Sanders fits that mold perfectly. His ability to extend plays, make throws on the run, and read defenses at a young age makes him a modern-day QB prototype. The Giants, under Daboll, have shown they're capable of adapting their offense to suit their quarterback's strengths. So, integrating a player like Sanders could be a seamless fit, and it would bring a fresh dynamic to Big Blue's attack. Of course, all this speculation is based on a lot of variables. The draft order, team needs, and Sanders' development over the next year will all play critical roles. But what's clear is that the Giants, like many teams, are always looking for the next big thing at quarterback. They want someone who can lead them deep into the playoffs, maybe even a Super Bowl contender. And if Sanders keeps progressing and making bold statements about his ambitions, it's not out of the realm of possibility that we could see him in navy blue and white someday. In the end, Giants fans, what makes all these stories so exciting is the hope and the anticipation. Every offseason brings new questions. Will they draft a quarterback? Will they trade for one? Or will they develop Daniel Jones into that franchise guy? The truth is, the future is never set in stone, but what we do know is that the Giants are always in the mix, always plotting their next move, and always looking for that player who can elevate the team to new heights. So, as we follow the latest developments, whether it's Sanders' statement, the draft rumors, or the team's offseason plans, one thing's for sure, being a Giants fan is never dull. The story continues to unfold, and every new piece of news brings us closer to understanding what the 2024 season and beyond might look like. Whether it's a new quarterback, a big trade, or a draft surprise, we'll be here to break it all down, analyze it, and share our thoughts with you. And now, New York Giants fans, I want to hear from you. What's your take on this? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Your opinion matters so much to us and to the New York Giants. And don't forget, I'll be back soon with more updates, so stay tuned for the latest New York Giants news. This team is always evolving, and as fans, we're right there in the middle of it, cheering them on every step of the way. Thanks for watching, and as always, let's keep the blue and white spirit alive.